This happened about 2 years ago, and I still think about it almost every night before I fall asleep. I'm 29, and at the time I was renting a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of town. It wasn't anything fancy. Older build, kind of drafty, but the rent was cheap and it was mine. I'd been living alone for about a year after my roommate moved out, so I was used to the quiet. Maybe too used to it. My family had gone out of state for a wedding that weekend. I skipped it because of work. I had a deadline coming up and honestly couldn't afford to travel. So it was just me, my laptop, and a pretty uneventful Friday night stretching out ahead. I made dinner around 7, ate on the couch, and set up my laptop to get a few hours of work in before bed. The house was calm, the kind of calm that feels normal when you've been alone long enough to stop noticing it. I worked for a couple hours without any issues. At some point I got up to refill my water and noticed the hallway light was on. I was pretty sure I hadn't turned it on, but I figured I must have flicked it on without thinking. I turned it off and went back to the couch. About 40 minutes later, I looked up from my screen and the hallway light was on again. I sat there staring at it for a second. I was tired and told myself I'd just done it again on my way back from the kitchen without realizing. I got up, turned it off, and this time stood there for a moment watching it. Nothing. I went back to work. I finished up around midnight and started shutting things down. That's when I heard it, a low knock. Not at the front door, not at the back door. It was coming from inside the wall to my left. One knock, then two. Slow and deliberate, spaced out like someone tapping to get your attention. I went completely still. I told myself it was the pipes. Old houses make weird sounds, and the pipes in this place had always been noisy. But pipes don't knock in a rhythm. Pipes don't pause and then knock again. I stood up. Another knock, same wall, slightly lower this time. Like whatever it was had moved down. I grabbed my phone and went to the kitchen to get away from that wall. I stood under the bright kitchen light, just trying to breathe. A minute passed. Nothing. 2 minutes. Still nothing. Then the hallway light came on by itself. I watched it happen. I was staring directly at the hallway, and the light just turned on. No flicker, no gradual brightening, just on. I called my friend Marcus and made him stay on the phone with me while I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my jacket. I did not check the hallway. I went straight out the front door and sat in my car in the driveway until morning. I had an electrician come out that Monday. He found nothing wrong with the wiring. No short circuits, no faulty switch, nothing that would cause the light to turn on independently. He seemed almost annoyed that I'd called him out for it. I moved out 3 months later. The new tenants are a young couple. Part of me has thought about telling them. I never have. I don't know what I'd even say. I was 17 when this happened. My parents had taken my younger brother to visit my grandparents a few states away for the week. I stayed home because of school and because honestly I was old enough and responsible enough to handle it. Or so everyone thought. The first few days were fine. I had school during the day, came home, made dinner, watched TV, normal stuff. By Wednesday, I was actually kind of bored with having the house to myself, which is funny given what happened Thursday night. I went to bed around 11. I remember checking my phone and setting an alarm before I closed my eyes. I drifted off pretty fast. I woke up at 2:47 in the morning. No sound woke me up, no nightmare. I just opened my eyes and was fully awake, like someone had snapped their fingers. That kind of sudden, wrong feeling awake that puts your whole body on alert before your brain even catches up. I lay there in the dark and looked toward the doorway. There was a shape standing in my bedroom doorway. It was tall, taller than my dad, taller than anyone I knew, and it was just standing there completely still. Dark, no real features I could make out, just this solid presence filling the frame of the door. I couldn't move. I'm not going to pretend I was brave about it. I was absolutely frozen and I could not make a sound. Every part of me wanted to scream and nothing came out. I don't know how long I lay there looking at it. It felt like a long time. Then slowly it moved, not toward me. It stepped back, away from the doorway, and disappeared into the dark of the hallway. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand and turned the flashlight on. I swept it around my room. Nothing. I got up, and I genuinely don't know how I made myself do this. And I looked out into the hallway, empty. I checked every room in the house with my flashlight shaking in my hand. Every door, every closet, nothing. All the windows were locked. The front and back doors were locked. There was no one there. I called my mom from the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning and tried to explain what I'd seen without sounding completely unhinged. She wanted to call the neighbors to come check on me. I told her I was fine. I was not fine. I slept with every light on in the house for the rest of the week. When my family came home and I told my dad what I'd seen, he was quiet for a second. Then he told me that before I was born, the family who lived in our house before us had lost a son. He'd passed away in what was now my bedroom. The dad had mentioned it offhand when we first moved in years ago. My parents never told me because they didn't want to scare me. I'm 24 now. I moved out for college and never moved back. My parents still live in that house. My mom says she's never seen anything. My dad doesn't talk about it. I believe what I saw. I don't have another explanation for it. I want to start by saying I'm not someone who believes in this stuff. I'm 31. I work in IT. I like data and logic and things that make sense. I'm telling this story because it happened to me and I genuinely cannot explain it. And that bothers me more than anything else. About 3 years ago, I was living alone in an apartment on the 4th floor of an older building downtown. Solid place, good neighbors, felt safe. I'd been there 2 years without a single issue. My girlfriend at the time had gone to visit her sister for the long weekend. I had the apartment to myself from Friday evening through Monday morning. Saturday was completely unremarkable. I cleaned, did laundry, watched a movie, went to bed at a normal time. Sunday morning, I woke up and went to the kitchen to make coffee and noticed a cabinet door was open. I'm a fairly particular person about stuff like that, so I noticed it immediately. But I just figured I'd left it open the night before and forgot. Closed it, made my coffee, moved on. That afternoon I was sitting at my desk, working on a side project when I heard footsteps. Clear, distinct footsteps from the room directly above me, which wouldn't be strange except the building only had 4 floors, and I was on the 4th. There was nothing above me but the roof. I sat there and listened. They moved slowly across the ceiling from one side of the room to the other. Then they stopped. I told myself it was probably sound traveling weirdly from another unit. Old buildings do strange things with acoustics. It made sense. I kept working. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A notification from my security camera app, motion detected in the living room. I had a small camera set up on the bookshelf that I'd installed months earlier after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. I opened the app and pulled up the live feed. My rocking chair was moving. I live alone. The windows were closed. There was no fan running. My rocking chair was rocking slowly back and forth, like someone had just stood up from it. I stared at my phone screen for probably a full minute. The chair gradually slowed down and stopped. I called my girlfriend. She thought I was messing with her. I sent her the camera clip. She stopped laughing. I went back to the apartment that evening because I refused to let this get in my head. I walked through every room. I checked the footage back further, and there was nothing else. No other motion, no indication of how the chair had started moving. Nothing. I reviewed that clip probably 20 times over the next few days, looking for a rational explanation. Air current from a vent, vibration from a passing truck. Anything. Nothing fit. I still have the clip saved on my phone. I've shown it to a few people over the years. Nobody has been able to explain it either. I don't know what was in that apartment with me. I moved out at the end of that lease. Whatever it was, I hope it stayed there.